Opposition People's Democratic Party turns up the heat on the All Progressives Congress, and President Buhari's administration says you are incompetent. Well, the APC is not having any of it, and in a swift reaction, the ruling party is calling the PDP statement a desperate ploy to be in the news. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the program. This is Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I am Kayode Okikiolu here at Channels Television's global headquarters in Lagos, Nigeria. Do we still have a government? Well, those are not my words. That statement is coming from the chairman of the People's Democratic Party, Prince Uche Secondus, during a press briefing earlier today, where he heavily criticized not just the president and his government, but the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, as well. In the feisty session at the PDP presidential campaign headquarters in Abuja, Prince Secondus touched on issues of security, the presidential and National Assembly elections, and the case of the embattled former CJN, that's Justice Walter Onoge. He also condemned President Buhari's private trip to the United Kingdom, calling it a voyage unknown. Take a listen.
The level of bloodletting occasioned by the barrage of criminalities across the country can only be happening in a country without a government, as crimes of all kinds are committed all over the country, and Nigerians have never lived in such a great fear and trembling for their lives.
Well, it didn't take too long for the APC to respond to these allegations. The party's national publicity secretary, Mr. Lanre Issa-Onilu, said, and I quote, "The PDP is merely seeking relevance. The opposition party desperately wants to be in the news." There you have that statement from the APC's national publicity secretary. So at this moment, it appears the battle line has been drawn. And tonight, we're going to be analyzing those weighty allegations and the APC's defense in a moment. But first, let's tell you about some other political stories making the rounds at this time.
With the concerns over the non-remittance of stamp duties, which is set to run into trillions of naira, the House of Representatives is to investigate the complicity of some public institutions, such as the Central Bank of Nigeria and the Nigerian Postal Service in the matter. The House resolved to set up an ad hoc committee to urgently investigate the matter. And the Jigawa State Independent Electoral Commission, GSEC, has slated June 29 for the conduct of this year's local government council's election in the state. The chairman of the commission, Mr. Sani Ahmed, confirmed this in an interview with Channel Television in Dutse, the state capital of Jigawa. According to him, the commission had since concluded all the preliminary process preparatory to the conduct of the election.
Well, let's get right into the major issues, everyone. Now, the two major political parties in Nigeria are well represented on the program tonight. Mr. Lanre Issa-Onilu is the National Publicity Secretary of the All Progressives Congress. And right next to him is Mr. Frank Shaibu, Special Advisor to the PDP presidential candidate, that's Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, on public communications. They both join us from our Abuja studio. It's a pleasure to have you gentlemen on the program tonight.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much.
All right, it's an honor. Now, Mr. Issa-Onilu, I'd like to get you shed more light on your response to these statements from the national chairman of the PDP, briefly.
Yeah, well, actually, it would have been unnecessary for any response at all to come from us as the ruling party. But I suspect that the national chairman of PDP may have stumbled on one of the statements they wrote pre-election, because it sounded more like some of those campaign materials that were not used or that have been used repeatedly, and for which the voters passed a verdict in the last election. And still coming around to say all this again, I don't know for what purpose. The issues raised in that statement, Nigerians already know who caused the problems, and they know who is trying to find solutions to the problems. And so at this stage, what we are focused on is how to ensure that all these problems that were created for over 16 years of PDP maladministration,
right,
we focus on ensuring that they no longer exist.
Now, Mr. Issa Onilu, you mentioned the
and
issues.
We have made tremendous.
If I could take a moment here, Mr. Issa Onilu, you mentioned the issues, so let's try to break it down briefly. Now, the national chairman of the PDP mentioned security in the country. He alleged several attempts to hijack the judiciary, the legislature, and, according to him, subjugate the other arms of government. So which of these claims do you agree with? Because if you ask me, there's a particular one that is actually a fact, talking about the security situation, the killing in Kaduna. So please, if you can respond to that.
If you take the issue of security, and then you take, it's not something I like to compare when you're talking of issues that involve death of Nigerians, killings of Nigerians. I don't like bringing figures. I mean, you're insulting the dead. You're insulting the victims. You're insulting the families of the victims. But in this country, we all know what this country was before APC came. We all know the kind of, the tremendous step we have taken and the progress we have made so far. We are focused on all of that, and it's just an attempt by the PDP to find a way back to the front page of newspapers and then to be relevant in the news.
Okay, let me
Otherwise, we are focused on governance.
All right.
We are focused on policy and implementation of our policies. The issue of security.
Okay, Mr. Issa Onilu, let me just hold you for a moment and ask Mr. Shaibu to respond to that. Mr. Shaibu, do you align with Mr. Issa Onilu's view that your party is desperate to be in the news?
Will anybody, how on earth would anybody who has a conscience and who believes that Nigerians are his brothers and sisters, that an injury to one Nigerian is an injury to all, how would such a person align with the position taken by the National Public Secretary of the ruling party, the APC? It is ludicrous, to listen to this kind of vituperations coming from a ruling party. Because, you see, the lives of our people are very, very important to us. And it is unfortunate that this government is playing politics with the lives of our people. The security has been a challenge in this country under this present administration. And they have done nothing about it. We have recorded more deaths.
How do you mean the government has done? Mr. Shaibu, how do you mean the government has done nothing about it?
Yeah, the results are there. The results are there for even the blind to see, the deaf to hear. We know the number of deaths that have been recorded under this administration. All we hear are just promises and promises. In fact, during the senseless massacre in neighboring Benue, Benue is very close to me here in Kogi and close to the Federal Capital Territory. Right under our nose here, the president instructed the leadership of our security agencies to take a look at what was happening in Benue. Nothing happened, and we know the number of people that were buried in Benue.
Okay, Mr. Shaibu.
So if we move from Benue, the insurgency.
Right.
The insurgency has been spreading from one state to the other, and it's moving close to us, close to the people.
Now, Mr. Issa Onilu, do you agree with that? I'm sure the security agencies will not agree with what you're saying. Mr. Issa Onilu, do you agree with that?
I mean, I'm not here to exchange words with a defeated party. Nigerians have passed verdict on what we are doing as far as this issue of security is concerned. And these are issues for all of us to see. Just 3 days ago, the president was in Maiduguri, the epicenter of this crisis, to commission projects. This would not have been possible if we still remain the way we were under PDP. So I don't need to speak to all of this. See, the outcome of what effort we have made in the last 4 years were reflected in the pattern of vote that we had.
Okay.
In the people of Northeast that are most hit by this issue, by the security issue, passed a verdict, overwhelmingly voted for APC.
Okay, gentlemen.
If they were not better off under APC, they will not do that.
Okay, I'd like us to move on.
To sit down here,
I'd like us to move on, gentlemen, and touch on other issues because of time. Mr. Shaibu, the PDP national chairman, criticized the president's trip to the United Kingdom, the private visit to the United Kingdom. But we had the president's media advisor saying there's nothing wrong with this trip. What is your take on that?
Before I go to that, I want to crave your indulgence to react to one or two issues he has raised concerning and his reference to my person as well as my party as a defeated political party for an election that is still a subject of contest at the Election Petitions Tribunal. And they know, and Nigerians know very well, that the election was fraught with irregularities, and the election, they know who the true winner of that election is. And that is why we are before a competent court of jurisdiction. So it is surprising to hear him say here that, he cannot join issues with a defeated party. And for me, what the most honorable thing to have done is to simply walk away when he heard or saw that, the PDP was going to come on the show. Well, that is just by the way.
All right, so let's get into major issue now.
They claim the president went on a private visit to the United Kingdom. A private visit with a public jet, with public finance. A private visit to Daura is excusable, but a private visit to another nation goes to show the kind of leadership we have. A president that is physically present in nature, but absentee in action and form and in governance. We know that he is a foreign president of Nigeria. I remember reading the report.
Mr. Shaibu, those are very, very weighty allegations. I mean, saying the president is a foreign president. That's the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the country. So I'd like for you to mind those statements.
No, I take exceptions to that. We're talking about the number of days he's been out of this country in the last 4 years. In the last 3.5 years, we know the number of days he's been out of this country. And the president takes a 10-day trip with public funds, with a public jet that belongs to the people of Nigeria, taxpayers' money, on a private visit, what they describe as a private visit. You see, these people are very insincere. They run a government of lies, a government where they trade on lies and fiction. So we are not surprised. We know what he went to do. You understand? We wish him well.
What do you think he went to do?
But I mean, the
president's office says it's a private visit.
Whether he's in the UK or in Nigeria, whether he's in the UK or in Nigeria, nobody feels his presence or his impact in governance. Well, unlike his beautiful wife once said, as far as we are concerned, the man is not in charge.
Mr.
Because he's not in charge, he can keep globe trotting.
Mr. Isaonilu, I'd like you to briefly respond to that. Mr. Shaibu, if you would just allow Mr. Isaonilu to respond to that briefly before we go on the break.
To respond to what? Don't be ridiculous. What has he said that I'm going to respond to? I mean, for God's sake,
yes.
The president, when he's traveling, he was supposed to go on Keke Napep or what? I mean, there are issues that are beyond, response. This kind of issue is not an issue for us as APC to respond to. Everything he has said, Nigerians are there, they have passed a verdict, and I maintain the fact that we are not at the level of exchanging words with PDP at this stage. We have another mandate of 4 years. And until court says anything contrary, that is the position.
Are you writing off,
for us,
Mr. Isaonilu, are you writing off the opposition party? I mean, that's the beauty of democracy, the fact that you have an opposition to always keep the main party on its toes.
We had looked forward to opposition party that really has the true interest of this country as an important aspect of their agenda. But it's obvious. I mean, from what I'm not surprised from what everybody in PDP, from what they say, you don't see them challenge us on policy.
All right, Mr.
You don't see them challenge us on the programs, on the social investment issues.
Gentlemen, I know we had a feisty session earlier, but I'd like us to move forward and discuss the National Assembly, if you may. Now, let's talk about the leadership tussle for the 9th Assembly. And this is for Mr. Isaonilu. Some have called it imposition of candidates. Some others have called it a mere recommendation. But can you tell us how the APC is going about this National Assembly leadership process? What internal mechanism are you employing?
Yeah, well, that's democracy at play. We are bringing forth to this country the true essence of presidential system of government. In presidential system of government, once you have the majority in the National Assembly, that is automatic. It is what you find elsewhere. You can't find the kind of situation we have gone through in the last 16 years. And particularly in the last 4 years when some people who are originally PDP hijacked the National Assembly. You don't have opposition party that has minority in the National Assembly taking the leadership position. So
right.
What we are trying to do as a party is to ensure that we take steps to ensure what is obtainable in the best democracies in the world is happening in this country. We are not imposing anything on National Assembly. National Assembly, don't forget, is not a political party. National Assembly is an arm of government.
Right.
But in that arm of government, we have APC members there who are part of the ruling party, who are there to express our views, who are there to implement our manifesto.
So it's not an imposition.
They are there representing APC, while PDP has obligation to represent those people who do not believe in APC, who didn't vote for APC.
Okay.
That is the people who are in the minority.
Now that you bring the PDP, Mr. Issa Onilu, now that you bring the PDP in, let's quickly get the perspective of Mr. Shuaib. Mr. Shuaib, we've been watching the proceedings in the National Assembly, in the build-up to the 9th Assembly. So looking at what the APC says it is doing, you've listened to Mr. Issa Onilu, what can you say about the process? Do you see imposition? Do you see some form of interference or not?
Well, before I do that, I want to put it to you that I want us to be a little more professional in our discourse. Before we even went on break, Mr. Onilu was the last speaker on this show, and you took a break. You didn't return to me on the issues he raised. And you're bringing the issue of the National Assembly. You still went back, camera still went back to him. It doesn't work like that. You need to run a balanced argument on this show, especially for a station like Channels Television. Please, it's very, very expedient. Because what you are misrepresenting to the people out there is that there is a tendency for a bias, and it is not healthy.
Now, Mr. Shaibu, you had...
This is one station.
Mr. Shaibu, I'd like you to respond to the question. Mr. Shaibu, if you can, just respond to the question. Thank you very much.
I deserve an apology for that. If you tell me, what do you mean by if I can, I should respond to the question? I deserve an apology for that.
Mr. Shaibu, you have shared your opinion on this program, and I'm sure if you can think about it deeply, you realize we've given you as much time. But please respond to the question. Let's be professional. Thank you.
Yeah, if you want to be professional, that's why I'm imploring you to be professional. And I detest it in the most civilized manner that it is wrong. And I'm laying a protest. You should tell me you have heard it, and it will be dealt with.
All right,
in the course of the...
Mr. Shaibu, your protest is noted. And I trust you're a gentleman. So please, if we can move on. Can you respond to that question? Thank you.
Yes, interestingly, the leadership tussle in the National Assembly, this is not the first time it is happening. And for us to have robust leadership in the country, we need quality leadership at the level of the National Assembly. And for us as a party, and for me as a person, I'll tell you that, look, there is nowhere in the world where the ruling party will not want to see how possible it is, how best it is for them to be able to galvanize support for their members who are in the National Assembly to occupy leadership positions. But I remember that in the last assembly, or in the outgoing assembly, not the last assembly because they are still there, in the outgoing assembly, contrary to the position held by Mr. Oniru, the leadership were practically and principally not members of the PDP. They were members of the APC, who later were dissatisfied with the conduct of the ruling party at that point in time.
Now, Mr. Shaibu,
and the leadership style of the ruling party.
Mr. Shaibu, because of our time, I'd like to take you up briefly on this issue. Now, this has to do with the post-2019 elections. I can see you smiling there. I'm glad we're having a great time. Now, some people have said that the PDP is still trying to recover, Mr. Issa Shaibu, the PDP, some have said, is still trying to recover from the election loss. Well, according to INEC. Is that true?
Take it again.
Some have said that the 2019 election was particularly very tasking for everyone, even journalists like myself. And they're saying that the PDP is still trying to recover. That's why we get, these positions from the PDP. Is that true?
Recover from what? What are we recovering from? If there's one thing we want to recover, it's the stolen mandate from mandate bandits. So for us, if that is the only thing we want to recover, and that's what we want to recover from Nigerians, those who truly and genuinely voted for His Excellency Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, it is that mandate we want to recover. So if there is any form of recovery, that is what we want to recover. There's no recovery to do because we are set, we are prepared to take our mandate from at the level of the tribunal, Election Petitions Tribunal, and the competent courts of jurisdiction, and rule Nigeria the way we have designed to rule this country, in the most decent manner, and so that we can put food on the table for the common man, tackle the issues of security that this government has not been able to do, and we'll have a president who will be able to talk to Nigerians, not one who can barely read.
Mr. Shaibu,
even when he tries to do so, we'll do so unintelligently.
Mr. Shaibu, thank you very much. On the final note, Mr. Isa Onilu, you've listened to Mr. Shaibu, and I'm sure you are taking notes. You have an opposition party that has come to highlight some of the things they believe is not happening right in this government. So what are the plans of the government to the coming administrations to ensure that these issues are resolved?
No, what is not happening right is not with APC. It's about the tendency for certain elements in PDP to be so indecent in the choice of words they use when they are referring to the president and commander-in-chief of this country. We all have that obligation to ensure we give respect to that office. We have the obligation to ensure that we respect our country. And the embodiment of that sovereignty today is President Muhammadu Buhari. For us to use certain words that are unbecoming of the status of an opposition party, and for even some of us as individuals to use certain words referring to our president in that manner, speaks volume of the kind of elements that are in PDP now. And no doubt Nigerians are very conversant with that, and perhaps the reason why they voted so massively against PDP. And I want to urge our media houses, including channels, also to not provide platform for people who do not exhibit this the kind of decency that the minimum standard that you expect from people at this level. You can't refer to the president using those words. That,
Mr. Isa Onilu.
The personality beside me here.
Mr. Isa Onilu, I'm sure that's a great way to leave it. Gentlemen, I'm sure that's a great place to leave it. I would appreciate a handshake at this point, just to show that, we're all working together for the good of Nigeria. I'd like to appreciate Mr. Lanre Isa Onilu from the All Progressives Congress and Mr. Frank Shaib joining us on the program tonight. The handshake is in order.
No, they are not my words. They are the words of Rotimi Amechi.
You can't say that every day. That's our show tonight. Thank you for watching. I am Kayode Okikiolu.